When the RTX 4090 first launched a while back, it sure got a lot of people fired up. Get it? It is the new king of GPUs that is super powerful with a power draw to match. Now, its little brother is here, and Nvidia promised that the RTX 4080 to be 2 times as powerful as the RTX 3080. Wait, isn't that getting a little bit uncomfortably close to the performance of the 4090? In fact, this GPU is supposed to have a graphics card power of only 320 watts, but with a price tag starting from 6,300 ringgit or 1199 US dollars to a whopping 7,999 ringgit, which is this ROG Strix OC model. Is the RTX 4080 still the more sensible high-end GPU that you should get instead? Let's check it out! Without wasting any more time, let's talk about specifications first. And with the new RTX 40 series, as we've mentioned before, Nvidia is adopting a new TSMC 4nm process. Along with that comes new 4th generation Tensor cores and 3rd generation RT cores that are supposed to double the AI and ray tracing performance. This new RTX 4080 has 11% more CUDA and Tensor cores, as well as 16% more RT cores than the older 3080. The clock speeds have also taken a huge leap to 2210 MHz base and 2510 MHz boost. One thing that got the community riled up is of course the price tag. While the RTX 4090 only saw a $99 or 6.6% increase compared to the 3090, the RTX 4080 is now almost double the price of the RTX 3080. Of course, back then getting the 3080 close to retail was mostly impossible, but now that the price has dropped, things have definitely changed. I'm actually curious to see how this RTX 4080 performs against its much cheaper predecessor, and also against the flagship RTX 4090, which has significantly more CUDA, Tensor and RT cores at the expense of 40% higher of a power draw. Jom, let's take a closer look. Now, as you can see, what we have here is not the Founders Edition 4080, but the ROG Strix RTX 4080 OC. The first thing that you'll note is, of course, the sheer size of this bad boy. It's pretty much the same design as the RTX 4090, also the Strix OC edition. And I must say that it feels and looks better in person. The fan shroud, frame and also backplate are all die-cast with a black powder-coated finish with polished silver accents, as well as splashes of red and blue on the fan shroud. For you RGB Tom Yum fans, there's an illuminated logo on the side as well as stripes at the edge. Pretty tasty, I must say. Buyers beware, because this is one hefty, thick and rigid card that measures 357.6mm in length and takes up 3.5 slots, so make sure that your case has the space. See, it rhymes. Oh yeah, you can also link this GPU up with the GPU thicc 3 software for overclocking, as well as monitoring thermals and such. Now, this ROG Strix GeForce RTX 4080 OC is coming in at 7,999 ringgit, like I said, which is 2,000 ringgit more expensive than the cheapest RTX 4080 in Malaysia. Eh? Seems like a poor performance per dollar or ringgit ratio, right? But hey, since when you ROG fans care about any of that anyways? You guys are bangsawan, right? The heart wants what the heart wants. In Chinese we say, 有钱就是任性. And before we move on to the benchmarks, these are the specs to our new 13th Gen Intel test bench. We are using the ROG Maximus Z790 Hero motherboard that we tested all our 13th Gen Intel CPUs on. Review on those coming real soon, I promise. Subscribe lah, wait for what? Moving on to the numbers. Starting off gaming benchmarks, we have 3D Mark tests to check out the rasterization performance from the RTX 4080. TimeSpy shows us that the 4080 is 50% more powerful than the older 3080 and even 30% faster than the 3090. It is also 29% slower than the RTX 4090 in DirectX 12. TimeSpy Extreme shows us a similar pattern. Now, Firestrike Normal and Extreme are DirectX 11 tests for older games, and you can expect the same performance uplift except for that smaller 18% lead over the 3090 in 1080p. So in terms of pure rasterization, this card is definitely powerful. However, its performance per dollar is almost the same as the flagship RTX 4090, which is not ideal for some people. Next, we have the real game numbers. I'm going to largely ignore 1080p scores, cards, even though we are showing them, mainly because they are quite irrelevant and also unpredictable, so I understand why other reviewers are skipping those. All the games we tested, which are Shadow of the Tomb Raider, Red Dead Redemption 2, Horizon Zero Dawn, Dying Light 2, as well as Cyberpunk, all reflected similar performance scaling as shown with our 3D Mark tests. Depending on the game, the RTX 4080 is around 50% faster than the RTX 3080, 20 to 30% faster than the 3090, and 20 to 30% slower than the 4090 in 4K and also 1440p gaming. It is definitely a much better card over the RTX 3080 if you're aiming to game in 4K 100 plus FPS without sacrificing graphics settings. As a bonus, we've also tested FPS titles like Doom Eternal and Valorant, where the frame rates have been overkill since the RTX 20 series cards, but hey, some of you asked for it, so here you go. Next, we have ray tracing. Ray tracing performance is what Nvidia is focusing on with these new RTX 40 series GPUs, so let's take a look at just how good they are. While we were doing this set of tests, we did not have access to our RTX 3080s, so yeah. In Shadow of the Tomb Raider, the RTX 4080 is 20% slower than the RTX 4090 and a crazy 50% faster than the RTX 3090 with DLSS off. But when you turn on DLSS, the performance gap between the RTX 4080 and 4090 closes by another 5%. In Cyberpunk, which I argue is almost unplayable with some flavor of DLSS if you go Ray Tracing Ultra, the RTX 4080 is only 17% slower in 4K and 10% slower in 1440p than the RTX 4090 with DLSS on. It is even a whopping 60% faster than the 3090. Safe to say that if ray tracing and AAA titles is your jam as it is mine, then the RTX 4080 simply gives us a slightly better value for money than the 4090 and is a no-brainer versus the older RTX 30 series cards. For productivity workloads, we're going to start with Puget Bench. Looking at our Adobe Suite scores, if you're using Photoshop, After Effects and Premiere Pro, that's only a 10 to 16% improvement on the RTX 4080 over the 3080 and only up to 11% over the 3090. So if you're working with videos, the older RTX 30 series GPUs at their current discounted price would be much better in terms of value for money. The same can be said about DaVinci Resolve, but I must note that the performance gap between the 4080 and 90 has widened by a few more percent. If you're working with 3D work, however, it is clear that the new RTX 40 series cards are just killing it. I'm talking about up to a 90% improvement on the RTX 4080 over the 3080 and up to a 50% uplift over the RTX 3090. It also offers you the same price to performance ratio to the RTX 4090, so depending on how much you're willing to spend and the complexity of your projects, either the RTX 4080 or 4090 are going to be much better choices for 3D work over the older RTX 30 series cards. Finally, let's take a look at power and thermals. In terms of temps, this ROG Strix OC version's thermal design is definitely overkill for the RTX 4080. It hovered around just 50 to 54 degrees during gaming and barely broke 60 degrees during our Firmark and AIDA64 stress test. Looking at power consumption, compared to our RTX 4090, you can expect the RTX 4080 to draw 20% less power on average, as you see from our gaming as well as Firmark and AIDA64 stress tests. I would say that if you're pairing this card with an i9 13900K or the Ryzen 9 7950X, I wouldn't go below a 750 or 800 watt 80 plus gold rated PSU just to be safe. But it definitely beats having to buy a 1000 plus watt power supply if you haven't had the reason to buy one before this.
I give the GeForce RTX 4080 a hashtag cheap buy 8 out of 10, mainly because I game exclusively with my RTX on. And I give this ROG Strix GeForce RTX 4080 OC a hashtag cheap buy 8.5 out of 10, but it's a little bit atas and bangsawan for some of you. So bangsawan, don't talk so much. Should I get the RTX 4080 or not? Okay, let me break it down for you. So this RTX 4080 is definitely an impressive GPU, giving us 20 to 30% more FPS than even previous generation flagships like the 3090. Along with that, we also get new tech like DLSS 3.0, improved ray tracing, which means that you can finally game on 4K 100 plus FPS on an 80s grade GPU from Nvidia for most games. Also for content creators, support for AV1 on these new RTX 40 series GPUs is going to be quite a game changer. However, for a lot of people, that price tag is still a hard pill to swallow still. Compared to the RTX 4090, you're looking at a similar cost per frame, which does not seem like such a great proposition considering that the higher end 4080s like this ROG Strix OC version almost touches the more affordable 4090s. Most bangsawan PC enthusiasts like Limpe or myself will simply just fork out a little bit more money and tambah lagi for the 4090, if nothing else for bragging rights of owning a flagship. Also, if you don't care about all the new tech and just want pure gaming or CUDA performance, then the older RTX 30 series cards as well as the Radeon RX 6000 GPUs at their discounted price point are probably better alternatives until they sell out, that is. So who is the RTX 4080 for? Well, if you want to build a small form factor rig and power draw as well as thermals are a concern for you, then the RTX 4080 would be the one to get because they run cooler and draw less power and don't require 1000 plus watt PSUs. Also, while the cost per frame is the same for the GPU alone, if you're building a PC from scratch or upgrading from an RTX 3080 for instance, if you go with the 4090, you would most probably need to get a new PSU, which will cost you more money as well. So if budget is a factor but you still want the new tech that comes with the RTX 40 series GPUs, then the RTX 4080 is a pretty good option at a lower price point than the 4090. And that is everything I have to say about this ROG Strix GeForce RTX 4080 OC that is coming in at a very cheap buy, 7,999 ringgit, which is also, like I said, 2,000 ringgit more expensive than the cheapest RTX 4080 in Malaysia. But look at this guy. This thick boy is very thick and beautiful. It's undeniable, you know? If you thought this video was helpful, don't forget to like and share. And also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit that notification bell to see more content like this. And also, if you like to talk a lot like me, then leave a comment down below and you can talk with me, to me, whatever you like. And also don't forget to follow us on Facebook, TikTok and Instagram to see more shenanigans from the Mob House crew. Again, my name is Shane, the Bangsawan from Mob House. And I will see you when? In the next one.